Hey friends, welcome to another edition of Big Al's Rockin' Podcast. If you are a new listener, please subscribe and share. And if you're a returning listener, thanks for your continued support. In this week's episode, I'm going to talk to Stevie of Stevie Peavey Films. And that is kind of a tongue twister for me because I talk funny. Anyway, Stevie first showed up on my radar with a couple of videos that we will talk about later. The first thing I want to talk about is the Kiss Avatars video created for the version of Deuce that you find on Kiss Alive. This video is a fantastic look at the early years of Kiss. Some of the things that you'll see in the video, if you haven't seen it already, the Hotter Than Hell photo shoot, the no makeup photo shoot from the early days, which I believe was Cream Magazine, a little clip of the Mike Douglas show where Gene and Toady Fields are kind of going back and forth at each other. Ace in his half makeup from when he had been in an accident and couldn't put makeup on the entire side of his face. There's a really nice nod to Bill Aucoin in there, and probably my favorite part of the video, other than the tribute to Ace Frehley at the very end, was the flaming toy stage on the coffee table in the children's house. So, my first question for you is, how long did it take you to put that video together?
That was an interesting one. I did one earlier. I'm sure you've seen it. We can talk about it after for War Machine, and I wanted to do one of the classic lineup. And I wanted to do something a little different. Rather than just doing, okay, I did one. Here's another in the same vein. Like, I kind of plugged away. I'm like, hey, how about if we make them little action figures? Just because, as everybody knows, Kiss, had all the dolls and different merchandise. And I was kind of working on it in the background, so I can't tell you how long, like I would say the first 30% took because it was just, knocking out a little bit here and there. And then we all got the news that Ace had died on Thursday, I think, last Thursday. And, I went for a walk. I was feeling a little bummed out. And I'm like, you know what? I got to get this out right away for the fans. There's no use like waiting a week or 2 weeks and stuff. And so from 3 p.m., whenever I got back from the walk, till midnight, I worked on it. And then, morning and afternoon on Friday and just got it out. And there's some things I would tweak that I was kind of like, all right, it's got to go out. It's got to like, and I think a lot of people, I was happy. A lot of people seem to appreciate it. They're like, oh, this is what I needed right now and stuff. So I was happy to bang it out. And I would say, if someone had told me, the day before Ace had died, he goes, you'll have this done by tomorrow. I feel like there's no way. So I cranked that one really fast.
What was the most difficult part of making that video?
I think, I really wanted them to do that, the little rocking back and forth they do with Induce.
Uh-huh.
And that was difficult. And then the other thing is getting character consistency. I think, you notice so many things that were going on in the video, and one of them is that they're all wearing hotter than hell outfits. Now there's some variations. Gene had the horns sometimes and not others, but to really just, not only do they have to look like the members, they have to be wearing that one period specific set of outfits. And there were times where one guy wouldn't look right, or when I was doing, when I was having them sing, they weren't singing it's one thing to go, oh, they look fine as, if you did just your average guy you don't know, but everybody knows what Gene or Paul look like when they're singing and stuff. So those were the trickiest things, and the things that I was wrestling with, and had to keep coming back and trying other things to make them work right.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that specific thing because the next question was, does it take a lot of extra effort to make the mouth motions match the lyrics?
Oh yeah, oh for sure. There's a bunch of different techniques that I know of to get that going. None of them are simple, and I think a lot of people, if they've seen stuff that's using AI and things like that, you'll notice that a lot of times they don't even attempt that because it is pretty hard. It's kind of a time intensive process, and it involves a lot of iteration and a lot of messing around in editing programs and stuff like that. But I think it is fun. I think people have watched them, and when they start singing, they're like, oh, cool, they're actually singing versus kind of one thing about AI is it's really, you can have beautiful cinematic things. It's hard to get characters to do anything. It's hard to have a fight scene or have people interacting with each other and stuff. So that's what I work hard on.
Well, their singing parts were very spectacular.
Cool.
So why did you specifically pick the song Deuce?
Well, I love Deuce. I mean, I love Deuce. I love the first, Alive one. Obviously Kiss's high water mark. You open the gatefold of Alive 2 and you see all the fire and stuff. And I do love that, all the songs on those albums, the second three albums. But, nothing beats like, kind of that Alive 1 era. And I would say Deuce is probably one of my favorite songs. It was a show opener. And also just the fact that they do that, the rocking moves. Ace gets, multiple solos throughout it. And so it just seemed like a no-brainer. Rock and roll all night is too on the nose for me.
Well, one thing about picking Deuce is I've seen Ace in interviews say more than one time that Deuce was his favorite Kiss song.
Yeah.
So that kind of works out pretty well, all things
hmm
considered. Yeah. Did you receive any feedback from anyone associated with Ace or Kiss about this video?
Yeah, Gene Simmons retweeted it, so that was kind of cool. So some viewers or something pointed that out, and so I saw the tweet that he reposted it. He said something like, "Oh, another really cool fan video," and I think it was was after obviously Ace passed and stuff. So that was cool to see. Um, and then I know the guys who were working on I know we're jumping ahead, but the different video, the War Machine video I did, the guy who runs the Kiss Cancer Goodbye was excited by that. And he's obviously not in the Kiss organization, but he's very close to them and doing stuff in conjunction with them.
Okay, well that does actually segue into the next question.
Hmm.
Well, why did you choose War Machine for your first Kiss video?
It's funny because a lot of if you read the comments, because there's hundreds of comments on those videos now, and people have all their opinions on, oh, you should do Psycho Circus, or or you should do Love Gun, or just everybody's got an opinion. You're like, yeah, but a buddy of mine, I'd done a Led Zeppelin video in the past, and he said, you should just just out of the blue, I think he texted me, he's like, it'd be cool if you did like I Love It Loud or War Machine. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, War Machine would be cool, and how the Deuce video was cool because, Ace had just passed and it was kind of, he was featured heavily in it. It was a tribute to him. And when I did War Machine, one of the things was, Vinny, he didn't have a lot of makeup Vinny. There's not a lot of footage out there. There's not even that many photos, there's not much video. And so to do a video that featured makeup era Vinny, I really felt like that's something that you wouldn't say, well, there's 50 live videos of that out there. It's sort of like a little bit like a version of like, oh, what would it look like if Vinny was playing and then War Machine, I think, lent itself visually, to a good war-torn city scenario, stuff like that.
Well, you mentioned you did a Led Zeppelin video.
hmm
What other videos? I've got the stutters right now. Damn it!
Uh,
What other videos have you done?
well, it's funny, the Led Zeppelin one and the two Kiss ones are the only ones I've done for big bands because for the most part I do music videos for bands that hire me. Both AI and just regular live action with camera. So so generally it's kind of a cool thing because I've been in bands a lot and it's a lot of promotion. It's a lot of getting the band out there and stuff. So there is something about if someone hires you to do a video, you do the video for them for the rate, and it's on them to promote it or get it out there, and stuff. And that's a little bit freeing. But I did feel like, why not do some videos for some bigger bands? Zeppelin is what I thought of, and I was just like, you know what? A lot of people see it on YouTube. A lot of people might enjoy it, and I'm not the hugest Zeppelin fan. I'm a much bigger Kiss fan than Led Zeppelin, but Led Zeppelin was, such a huge band, and Immigrant Song's a very well-known song with the Viking imagery sounded like it would really lend itself well. And so, and then kind of like the Vinny era of Kiss, for how huge Zeppelin are, it wasn't like they were in the 80s era where they had made tons of music videos, and stuff. So I felt like kind of a little bit of a music video of like kind of that band in kind of like a Viking theme would also work well and be a lot of fun.
Well, once again, we're going to segue into You said you made videos for other people. My next question was, do you plan to turn making music videos for other bands into a business? And if so, what can a band expect from you in terms of what you need from them to get started?
Yeah, for sure. It already is my business and stuff. It's just on a film set this past weekend, so I've been editing for that. And generally, if the band is local, anything is possible. But a lot of these bands that I work with who aren't local, not only are they in a different state, but they want a video, and I can work with them to get it done, even though we're not, meeting in person, which is pretty cool. And then the other thing is I'm actually working with a couple bands where uh, even the artists themselves are in different states. So they said, it's very hard for us to get together as a group. So can you make a video for us? And it is kind of interesting the way technology works is, not only am I making videos for bands that, are not in the same location as me, but some of the bands, the members themselves aren't even the same location, but they can create the music, due to the ability to like send tracks around and stuff like that.
All right, we jumped right into talking about the Kiss Avatars video. Now let's take a moment to talk about Stevie Peavey. Tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about yourself.
cool. Um, yeah, I've been a creative director for a long time. So I worked in like the toy industry a lot, and so just getting more and more interested in film. And so kind of left the toy industry and just using a lot of the skills that I've built up from a couple decades there, and just moving into a whole new, kind of branching out. But it's been very successful. My girlfriend was even saying, she's like, I don't I one day I said, guess what, I'm a music video director now, and she's like, uh-huh. And then within like a month or so I had clients and stuff, and then it started, it's kind of snowballing. She's like, I don't know how you just one day you just say you're something, and then all of a sudden it's actually that's what it is. But I've been doing it for a good while now, but it's really snowballing, and I couldn't be happier about that.
Is there anything else you'd like to mention to my listeners before we end the interview?
Yeah, I just, obviously the Kiss and the Led Zeppelin videos are popular on YouTube. And please go watch them if you're interested in that. And I just put a new video. It's my own music. It's kind of a black and death metal song that I put out yesterday. So obviously it's not, not gonna have like the power of Led Zeppelin behind it. But if you want to see me in a full face of corpse paint and priest robes and stuff in a red temple, please check that out as well.
Well, tell my listeners where they can find you online.
Yeah, YouTube.com, obviously at Stevie Peavey Films, and Instagram at Stevie Peavey Films. And
All right.
that's
Oh, go ahead.
Stevie, Stevie, and then Peavey like the amp, Peavey.
Right on. Well, I want to thank Chuck Gee from the band 8 Ball for hooking me up with you to do this
Nice.
interview. And I thank you and appreciate your time.
Cool. Thanks so much, Alan.
Thanks for listening to Big Al's Rockin' Podcast. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe on your preferred podcast outlet. Visit BigAlRocks.com to find past episodes, on-demand links to my radio show, links to my social media, and other Big Al shenanigans. Most importantly, please like and share this episode. Peace out.